Now that we've had some time to process Deadpool and Wolverine, I wanted to do a tier list of all the X-Men films. This is a franchise that was once incredibly important to me that later I fell off, and now I don't really know where I stand, but I don't think they know where they stand either. I wanted to create a little balance with this one and make it a little more strategic. So for the S and A tier, I will only have 2 movies in each one, and the same goes with D and E. But right there in the middle, B and C can each have 3 films, so let's get to it. The original X-Men film to me is really bold in its way to introduce us to all the X-Men without needing to have a origin story. We're introduced to the characters of Wolverine and Rogue, which are 2 characters that automatically make this universe feel really grounded, despite them being thrown into a world that has already existed for decades at this point. But the entire cast of this film is still really incredible, and I think it holds up quite well, so I'm going to put it in the A tier. When rewatching X2 this past month, I forgot how many incredible scenes there were. From the opening with Nightcrawler in the White House, to Wolverine having to protect all the mutants on his own in the mansion, there's Magneto's escape scene. Pretty much this film is everything I love about this franchise, while also giving us a little more insight to Wolverine's backstory and sending some characters off with proper deaths. To me, this is as good as it gets, so I'm going to put it in the S tier. Now, X3 The Last Stand is a film that I used to really adore when I was younger, but rewatching it now, it doesn't hold up all that well. I still really love the ending, and the idea presents itself if mutants had the option to get rid of their powers, but the dialogue feels especially clunky, and there are some characters that I think deserved better, so it pains me to have to put this in the C tier. X-Men Origins Wolverine is not a great film. It felt like there were so many mutants that they wanted to introduce us to, so they wrote a plot where we can move from one to the next, to the next, to the next. Not to mention the worst version of Deadpool we've seen, and a lot of cheesy prequel quotes introducing us to future characters that we will later see, but I still love Gambit, so almost for that reason alone, I'm going to put it in the D tier. Next up is X-Men First Class, a film that also has very bad prequel vibes, mostly when everyone's just sitting around trying to decide what their hero name is going to be. But moving past that, I felt like this was a very good reboot of this franchise, or kind of prequel. I still really don't understand how these all connect, but in my mind, I want to see the X-Men team up and have to fight people, and this film gives me that with some pretty good character motivations. They once again nailed the casting, having to find new actors for all of these characters, and so I'm gonna put this one in the A tier. The Wolverine is a film I didn't really appreciate upon release, and while it's still not my favorite, I think there are a lot of interesting ideas taking place here. I think the mere fact that we have this standalone story in a very unique location for this franchise, it's a pretty cool idea, and there are some fascinating set pieces within this film, so this one is gonna go up in the B tier. Then we have X-Men Days of Future Past, which is a film that still breaks my brain every time I try to think about the plot, because none of it really adds up to me. But I guess it's fun combining the old cast with the new cast, and I think if you can ignore the clunky exposition, there are some pretty cool scenes that happen in this film. So this one's also going to go in the B tier. Now we have the first Deadpool movie, a character that I am very neutral on and don't really always understand the shtick. I guess I do understand it, I just don't find it funny. I think I'm more impressed by this film more than anything. The fact that it exists at all, the fact that Ryan Reynolds was able to convince them to completely rebrand this character, even though he already played him. But I don't find this film particularly interesting, so I'm gonna put it in the C tier. But then we have X-Men Apocalypse, which makes me think that Deadpool should be rated way higher. This film's kind of a mess, especially when it's filled with all this 80s nostalgia montages, the weird Wolverine cameo, and like most of the new cast is pretty okay, but it just continues down this trend of continuity, which is something I really shouldn't be that bothered by, but I just am. Yeah, this thing is just really not good, like almost at all, but I'm still gonna put it in the D tier. Then there's Logan, which is such a difficult film to rank among these, only because it is so unique from anything else on this list. It really doesn't feel like an X-Men film at times. It feels like something completely unique, which almost makes me want to exclude it from this list, but since I can't do that, I just had to acknowledge that it is a nearly flawless film, and it's probably the best one within this franchise, so it absolutely deserves a spot at being in the S tier. Deadpool 2, I think, is the best of the 3 Deadpool movies. Maybe it's just because the specific jokes here land the best with me, but I really enjoy the additional characters of Josh Brolin as Cable and Zazie Beetz as Domino. Their respected fight scenes are really well done, so I'm gonna put this one in the B tier. And then we go to Dark Phoenix, a film that tries so hard to redo what they messed up in The Last Stand, and yet somehow fails even harder. This film has almost no redeeming qualities, and I would be surprised if there's anyone arguing that it doesn't belong in the E tier. But then there's New Mutants, once a film that has somehow reached lower lows. And it's not even that this film is bad, but it's just boring, which to me is worse than being bad, because at least there's some redeeming qualities in entertainment. It's so bad it's good. This film is so boring, it just becomes more bad. I guess Anya Taylor-Joy is okay in this, but this performance is definitely in the bottom tier of her filmography, so it's E tier, no doubt, and it's no surprise why they tried to subtly release this during COVID, hoping no one would see it. But then there's Deadpool and Wolverine, a film that I continue to struggle with, because on one hand, I had a blast in the theater watching this, but the farther I get from it, the more issues I have with it. I don't know, it's a mess of a movie. It doesn't really work on its own. It pretty much has everything that people criticize about movies like this, so I think I'm gonna play it safe and put it in the C tier, and if you really want more thoughts on that film, my full review is up. But that is my tier list of the X-Men franchise. Where do we go from here? I have absolutely no idea. I don't even think the MCU knows where they're gonna go with it. But please comment below your thoughts. What did I get wrong? Where would you change things up? What is your favorite X-Men movie? What is your least favorite X-Men movie? Have you even seen them all, or am I literally the only person that's ever watched New Mutants? Comment below, and I will see you next time.